through, this exhibition also shows this quite clearly, I think, because it suggests a link between the beginnings and the ends of modernity. And it proposes...
I think art offers a way of thinking about the world that's different from any other system of thinking. Because it's not rational, it's not logical, it doesn't necessarily have to obey the rules of the market, but it allows possibility to enter into our framework of thinking. And that's an amazing thing. I mean, when that happens, when you suddenly realize that it doesn't have to be this way, then everything opens up, and it's like you get a hit of oxygen or something. It's like suddenly you can breathe again.
Charles Esche is director and curator of the Van Abbemuseum in Eindhoven, a museum for modern and contemporary art in the center of the city.
My view of museums is that they are public spaces, and that the reason that we receive public money is because we operate in the public interest. And I think that public spaces are in short supply at the moment. So much has been privatized, so much has been commercialized, has been handed over to an economic dogma, which says that only the market can determine what's good for us. Only the market is healthy, almost. And that worries me enormously. I think that the world needs to have a balance between culture, politics and economy.
And these are sort of design objects. It was really the room of the contemporary. So the idea was that the art was finished, and that what you had is like reproducible media. So you had slideshows. You had.
So I think that to make a museum a place where people can gather, people can come together, people can enjoy each other's company, is very important. And then to make a museum where the works that we show set people thinking.
You actually stand underneath it. You can start to see in a way what it might have been like also to have built these structures and these strange horizontal skyscrapers.
Archives are what we need in order to tell stories. We have like a whole bunch of archives, and we reach back into them. Sometimes they're called memories, sometimes they're buildings with huge piles of paper, but basically they perform the same function. We can reach back into them and we can pull out a story from them. To be honest, I think that the museum should be a place of difficulty. I think a museum that satisfies people's expectation, that you walk out of thinking, oh yeah, I've seen it now, I know all about it, would be a terrible museum. It would be a dead museum. It would be a museum that wouldn't produce anything. So I think we have to be in the middle of political questions, as we are as a museum today. I think we have to be in the middle of processes of social change. And we have to take our position in that, which not everyone will agree with.
To reuse, to build upon, to balkanize. And so you have these sort of modern blocks, and then you have people building on the roof. But also how you can make use of.
And I think that museums can give you a certain moment of reflection, a moment of quiet in a certain sense, which can allow that critical thinking to take root. So I see museums very much, in a sense, almost in their spiritual significance for a society, which shouldn't be a place where it's to consume images, but it's to be, in a sense, woken up by the images, or maybe to use the images as a platform for thinking further.
For the exhibition Strange and Close in CAPC in Bordeaux, Charles Esche, with his curatorial team, made a selection of works from the Van Abbe collection.
What we did in Bordeaux was to create a neighborhood using works from the collection, but a planetary neighborhood. So things coming from New Orleans, things coming from Poland, things coming from Sharjah, from the United Arab Emirates, brought together. Hospitality has been a key word for me, and I think hospitality is not something that's easy. Hospitality is about creating the conditions where you are as generous as possible. It's not about giving people what they want. That's not hospitality, that's marketing. And there's a big difference.
In januari, misschien februari, we moeten wel een datum prikken. Het gaat over een zogenoemde Hollands kabinet. Misschien kan je dat aan Theo een beetje uitleggen.
Nou ja, dat sinds deze regering er is, maak ik dus elke dag een tekening van een Hollands kabinet. Een Hollands kabinet natuurlijk. De Nederlandse regering, maar het is ook
I was very engaged in party politics, I suppose, on behalf of the Labour Party in England, and then a little bit later in Scotland. And I gradually realised the sort of impossibility of politics to actually change anything. And I think at that point I became disillusioned with what I'd been interested in up to my early 20s. And I started to look around, and I wanted a field which appealed to the imagination in a way, which actually spoke to possibility rather than impossibility. And I found it in art, and I think it's always this capacity to think something other, and then maybe to imagine the world differently from how it is.
In 2011, the museum loaned Picasso's Portrait of a Woman to the International Art Academy Palestine in Ramallah.
We took a Picasso that was painted in 1943, so under occupation in Paris, to another place under occupation today. And so what you see is that this relationship between the original creation of the work and the conditions of occupation happening in Palestine today are linked in a very strange way through this portrait of a woman. And somehow that painting comes back to Eindhoven, a different painting, a painting with a different experience. So what it means is that archive of modernity that we have here is still alive, it's still developing. So these artworks have, if you like, a life inside the museum. The museum is not a mausoleum. It's not a place where objects come to die, but it's actually a place where objects can gain a second life. And I think through taking Picasso to Palestine, we gave a painting a chance to become something more than it was before, than it could ever be in Eindhoven.
In the near future, in collaboration with the artist Li Mu, modernist works from the Van Abbe archive will be exhibited inside homes of his village in China.
What I'm really interested in is how we can have a genuine planetary dialogue now. I think we have to start thinking on the planetary level. Art has always been international. It's always tried to reach out across borders, fictional borders that are drawn up around nations that only exist in our heads anyway. And I suppose my ideal would be that this museum or the work that I do contributes in some small way to setting up a group of people who are engaged in thinking about the planet as a single whole, and not about the little nation state, and not even about the slightly bigger continental Europe.